I used to work the graveyard shift at an inner city gas station. One day, when I came in at 11 p.m. to start my shift, I noticed that there was a man I'd never seen before standing outside the door in a hoodie with his head down. The people who usually come in are regulars, since the gas station isn't very close to any highways, so new faces are quite rare. I went on with my shift, organizing a few things on the shelves and taking inventory. It usually took me 10 minutes to do, so I'd spend most of my shifts on my phone listening to music in the back room. After running to the front to check out the few customers that stopped by, I had to use the restroom, which was located outside on the side of the building. As I walked out, the parking lot was vacant, which was a common sight for the night shift. When I turned the corner to walk around the side of the building, I was startled as I looked up to see the same man I saw a couple hours earlier standing outside when I came in for my shift. I said hey as I walked by, but he didn't respond or even react to my presence. I found it a little strange and creepy, but I didn't think much of it. As I finished using the restroom, I walked back out to see him standing in the exact same spot, just looking straight down. I couldn't really make out his face since it was really dark and his hood was all the way up, but I minded my own business and went back inside. Concerned, I looked at the security cameras to see what he was doing, but I couldn't see him. I assumed he was standing in one of the two blind spots we had on each corner of the building. A couple more hours went by, and I think I had maybe one or two customers during that time. It was now around 4 a.m., and I was starting to count down the hours since I'd get off at 8 a.m. I walked back outside to use the restroom, and I was startled to see the same man again standing in the same spot with his hood up and his head down. Something about this guy felt really creepy, and I briskly walked by, definitely feeling uncomfortable. As I finished in the bathroom, I walked out to see that the mysterious guy was gone. I let out a sigh of relief as I rounded the corner to walk back into the gas station. I looked to see a familiar car parked in the lot. It was a regular named Bill, who would always come in and chat at just about the same time every day before he went to work. He had just walked out with his coffee he'd grab every day, and we stopped to talk outside the door. I thought it was strange, since I never rang him out and I didn't know him to be the criminal type. We had our usual small talk, talking about our fantasy football leagues, until I jokingly asked him if he was stealing the coffee today. He paused for a second, looking at me, and started laughing. He said something along the lines of, "Oh, you're funny, dude. That new worker in there might be taking your spot. You might have to fight him for your shift." My eyes widened as I heard this, and I didn't even know what to say. I said, "You realize I'm the only worker here now, right?" I honestly thought he was messing with me or something, but his expression grew more serious when he saw my reaction. He said, "Wait, you're the only person working right now? There's a new guy in there. He was standing in the back room, and he wouldn't say anything to me. I didn't know what his deal was, but I left $2 on the counter and walked out. You know me, man. I wouldn't steal." Now definitely being concerned and a little freaked out, I walked back inside with Bill and looked around. It was empty. There was nobody in the front or the back room. We both just looked at each other, shocked and confused, until we heard a loud bang coming from the storage freezer. I walked back to the freezer, quietly as possible as I tried to listen on the other side of the door. I could definitely hear some sort of commotion on the other side, so I flung open the door to see the hooded man who was standing outside the gas station the entire night. He was holding a garbage bag, loading stuff into it. He looked up at me with wide, bloodshot eyes and started yelling at the top of his lungs as he charged and tackled me. Bill ran over and started hitting the guy until he got up and ran out of the gas station. I was shocked, and Bill helped me up as he called the police. I locked the doors and we watched as the crazed man ran through the parking lot with the bag before collapsing on the pavement. We stayed inside and watched as the police cuffed the man and put him in the back of the ambulance. My boss told me a couple days later that the guy had a ton of different drugs in his system and was in psychosis. He was armed with a kitchen knife in his pocket. I'm really thankful that Bill was there with me that morning. If he hadn't, I could have died. I was studying to be a nurse and had finals coming up the following week. To preface this, I lived off campus at an apartment complex maybe 10 minutes or so from my college, which was located downtown. I would have preferred to live in a dorm on campus, but it was much cheaper to live in the apartments. I'll be honest, the neighborhood I lived in wasn't the safest, as I'd often wake up to the sound of police sirens multiple times a night. Anyways, I was driving home on a Friday night after going out with some friends when the low gas light popped up on my dashboard just before getting on the freeway. It was pretty late, around 1 a.m. or so, but I didn't want to risk running out of gas, like I have in the past. I'm usually not one to get freaked out easily, but this gas station gave me an eerie feeling. I pulled in, noticing that the three men were standing right outside the door, talking. As I got out, I noticed out of the corner of my eye that they kept looking over at me, which creeped me out. I didn't want to make eye contact, not wanting any trouble. I wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. Just as I was about to finish pumping gas, an old rusted gray Honda Civic came flying in the parking lot and parked at the pump right next to me. I was startled, definitely not expecting a car to pull in so fast and park directly next to me in an empty lot. I heard the windows roll down, and I turned to see a woman in the driver's seat sitting beside a man who looked to be unconscious. She seemed panicked, and she shouted at me saying that her boyfriend was overdosing and needed help. Since I was studying nursing, I thought I'd at least take a look at him, knowing there's not much I could do, and she would need to call an ambulance. She got out of the car and walked me around to the passenger door where the man was sitting with his head tilted to the side and his mouth wide open. I tried waking him up, seeing if he was conscious, but he wasn't responding. I told her that he needed medical attention immediately and offered to call an ambulance, but she quickly shot down my offer and tried to say how he's done this before and he's been fine. She asked if I could try to wake him up one more time, which seemed strange, considering there was nothing I could do that she couldn't. But I decided I'd try one more time since I was already standing there. I leaned in, trying to open his eyes, until his eyes popped open and he put me in a headlock as the woman behind me grabbed both of my legs. I started screaming, flailing and kicking and doing anything I could do to free myself. Just as they had almost my entire body in their car, the three shady men who were standing outside the gas station came up to the car, yelling and screaming to let me go. Although I couldn't see, I heard one pull a gun on the guy who had me in the headlock, saying, "Last chance." I felt them let go and I got up completely mortified, as I thanked them and sprinted back to my car, where I locked myself in and took off. That night, after getting home, I laid in bed, unable to sleep and terrified from the situation. I went online and looked up something like fake overdose at gas station in my area, and I got chills seeing the first article pop up. There was a picture of the same couple that tried to lure me in their car. They were wanted for multiple robberies in the area. I couldn't believe what I saw, and I thought to myself how it seemed like they were trying to kidnap me. I finally calmed down enough to call the police and report the incident, but I never found out if they were ever caught. I'm thankful for the guys that helped me out that night. It still haunts me every night, thinking of all the terrible things they could have done to me if those three creepy men hadn't helped me. When I was 12, my best friend's parents took me and two of my other friends on vacation in North Carolina. We lived in Wyoming, and for whatever reason, my friend's parents decided they wanted to drive. They rented out a large minivan that was pretty comfortable, but it didn't make the 29-hour drive go by any quicker. To put it lightly, the car ride sucked. I was already super impatient as a kid, but this took my patience threshold to a whole new level. Every hour that passed felt like 5, and my friends and I were bored out of our minds. After about 15 hours of driving, we stopped at a hotel to rest up for the night, with the goal of making it to North Carolina the next day. Long story short, there ended up being a gas leak at the hotel we were booked to stay at in Missouri, so we didn't have anywhere to sleep. Besides that hotel, there was only one other possible option we had, which was a motel, but after they talked it over, they decided it wasn't a safe location and we had to keep driving. Before getting on the highway to continue the treacherous journey, we stopped at the only open gas station in the area so my friend's parents could buy energy drinks. I was half asleep when I heard the door shut and opened my eyes to see my friend's parents walking into the gas station. I looked over to my friends in the car with me to see that they were all passed out. As they came back outside, they said we should go inside and use the bathroom since we weren't going to be stopping for a long time. We all groggily walked in the building to go as the parents waited outside in the van by the pumps. It was a single-person bathroom, so we had to make a line, and I was at the end. I glanced at the window and saw two men walking towards the building. As they neared, I noticed that they were staring at me as they approached. They were both wearing white t-shirts and had beards. As my one friend came out, he said he was going back out to the car to sleep. I kept watching as I waited till my turn as the guys stood around and whispered to each other, not looking like they were there to shop. I felt myself getting more nervous as they kept looking at me. After another couple minutes, it was just me and my friend in the store, and he was finishing up in the bathroom. Once he walked out, I went inside and locked the door behind me. I was pretty scared since everyone was now in the van except for me, and I was in the building alone with those two frightening figures. As I walked out, I noticed that only one man was in the store, and the other one was gone. He was blocking the door to the exit, facing the parking lot. For some reason, the gas station worker was nowhere to be found, and I'm pretty sure it was just me and this random guy inside. I waited around a couple minutes, pretending to look at snacks, until I built up the courage to walk by him and get out. As I walked up to the door, He turned around and put his hand up, telling me to stop. I froze in fear, wondering why he was doing this. He explained that his friend was out there as he pointed to the van, where he was talking to my friend's mom and dad, telling me that my friend's parents hit their car. I was really confused, since the only other car was parked 2 pumps away, and the van never even moved since we pulled in. The only reason I partially believed him was that maybe something happened when I was sleeping in the back on the way there. I told him that I wanted to go out there, but he said no in a more stern, assertive tone. He told me to follow him, as he turned around to walk out the back side of the gas station door, and that's when I really knew I was in danger. I thought about making a run for the van, but the other guy was still there talking. Looking back now, which I regret, I decided my best chance was to follow the man who was inside with me, and maybe try to make a break for it when I had the chance. As we opened the door to the other side of the lot, he grabbed me and started dragging me by my arm to a van parked by a pump. I screamed, loudly as possible as I tried to free myself from his grip, but it was too strong. He led me towards the van, and by some miracle, I escaped his hold. I ran as fast as I could around the gas station to the other lot where my friend's parents were parked, and saw that the other man was no longer there. I got in the van, shaken up and crying, and explained to them what just happened. They seemed worried and shocked. They explained that the man talking to them was asking for directions and wouldn't leave them alone. I finished explaining my side of the story, and they both looked at each other in disbelief. My friend's dad called the police and we left the gas station as quickly as possible. I'm just lucky to be here to tell this story today.